Hey everyone, welcome back. We just worked on some onboarding screens. We have the intro screen and we're going to get right into this registration section over here. So I'm going to make another copy based off of that and I'm going to delete everything. Let's start fresh and I'm just going to rename this registration and then we can go into our assets tab. So if you need a header over here, you're going to need to go to the navigation. And, using components like this really is that easy. So right now we have it saying step 1 of 4. I don't know if we need the logo here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the logo off and I'm going to actually just write step 1, personalization. Perfect. So we have step 1, personalization. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paste all these versions and we can, fill them in little by little. So we know that the second step in this is going through like why we are joining, like maybe your goals for using this app. The third step is pretty easy as well. Now we're actually picking our interests. So we'll write interests. And then the fourth and final step is like the find details. So we could just call it details. Perfect. And maybe we'll just, instead of goals, we'll just put your goals. So I'm going to use Command, or you can use Control to click into there. And I am going to set this one to 25%. Another Control click or Command click. And then this one's at 50. And another one, 75. And then we have our final screen afterwards. Okay, so the next step is we need some text. So we're going to just drag this text here and I'm going to give it just a name. We'll call it our question container. Let me just rename that. Okay, we have our question container. Now we can bump down that size and I'm going to actually bump down this size as well. So I don't think we need 16 pixels. So we have 32 pixels like that. Perfect. So you can either group these in a frame, you can use the frame like this. Sometimes I like to mix and match, especially if I plan to prototype right afterwards. So the next step is to add a photo. So let's do that. Add a photo. And I'm just going to copy and paste this text. So I'm using Command Shift V. You can use Control Shift V. And there we go. There's our first one. We're going to go over here and do the exact same thing. And then I think instead of this text, I'm going to use something else. Like, what do you want to achieve with habitual? Remember, proper punctuation. And then I think we can use that. The secondary text. Looking good. And over here, let's copy that. I don't think we don't need this one anymore. Perfect. And the last one, we can literally just copy all of this. So we're going to copy that and paste that all in. Already I've noticed that we're making some really great progress here. And there we go. So we have our text. I think over here we can probably use one of our assets. Let's see. miscellaneous elements. We could probably grab the avatar. Where's the 80 pixel one? There it is. I could probably do something like this. And just, center it. And there we go. Let's think about the containers that go here. So I have the pills or the chips. So I'm going to go to my inputs and grab my chip over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this whole container. Oops. I'll bring this there. Go into my layers. I'm going to call this my input container. So as you notice, like I like to use the word container a lot. It's just mostly for ensuring that we're keeping like consistency. When somebody else comes into your file, you want to make sure that, things are, nice and neat. So the label here for this one, so we're just going to have to go discover new products. Beautiful. And then I'm going to press Command D. You can press Control D if you're on Windows. And I'm just going to make 3 more. And then I'm going to bring this up along with this one. But grabbing these, and then I'm just going to select them and throw them in. I'm literally just copy and pasting all of these little bits of text. And then just to show that one is selected, there we go. Okay, this one's a fun one. I don't think we're going to go through the whole process of, having 2 images, but we can definitely create this container pretty easily. Let's get our cards out. And there we go. We can do a couple things here. Let's turn off the top label. Let's put on the button container. Take out the other one. There we go. And we can, do something like reading. And now I'm going to just turn on my grid so I can see what I'm doing here. And perfect. This is going to be our main one. And I'm going to press Shift A, and I am going to remove the padding, and I'm going to keep it at 16, like my grid. And they're going to go sideways, perfect. And what I'm going to do on this item, I'm just going to throw that in, and now I'm going to work on a new one. And we can just do 3, so I'm going to change this image to something else and write something like music, and we can make that like blue, and then this one can be something like fashion, and we can just go ahead and make it something like red. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to center them, and I'm going to go into my effects. So right now I don't have any effect styles, and that's totally fine. You can definitely, come up with your own if you want. So I'm going to make sure that I have nice little thing right here, so I can see and swipe that way. It looks really, really good. And then the last one, we have these containers. Let's go. I also have blurs in the back, but I think that's a little too distracting for a registration form, so I'm going to omit those right now. I'm going to go into my inputs, grab one of these, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my base, and I'm going to show the one on the right. So I'm going to do that for every single one of them. So you can use Shift Command Hide. I'm using Tab to go through them. And you can use like enter to go deeper into those. So shift command hide, shift command H, or shift control H. And I'm going to do that for all of them. And you can follow along with me if you feel comfortable trying to play around with these components. I don't need the label, so I'm going to just hide the label, and I'm going to make sure those are right onto the grid as I'm getting those red lines. I'm going to take this container now, and I'm going to call this my interest container. Perfect. I don't need any padding, but we are going to use some padding in between. Let's throw this in here, remove this. This one we can left align now, and then we can bring down the size. And now we can start writing things like music. And I think we only need like 3 or something. So now we have, okay. So now we're just going to go through and fill in these values really easily. So if I have like live music, there is like hip hop, and then we can add like another one like see all options. So I'm going to add that later, but that's looking good. And then the last thing I just want to go through is just the button container. So we can grab that and throw that in here. And now I have this new button container that's really nice. But the one problem is, it doesn't look exactly like how I designed it, and that's totally fine. I think we can now like mold it a bit. So I'm going to use like a secondary button, and then I'm going to actually remove the stroke at the top here. So now we can also change this to, instead of it being a secondary, we can turn it to like inverted, and we can also mess with the color a bit there. So we can, deprioritize this button over here and just call it like a skip button. Now this, we can now just say like upload my photo instead of just upload photo. And we can switch it to just hug content, making a lot of changes of this one component right here in the moment. Whereas, sometimes I wouldn't necessarily do that. And that's okay. I mean, as long as you're not making those types of changes very often, this is totally something that happens all of the time. And continue. And we'll probably have maybe an arrow. So that looks good. And then we'll have another one, which will be continue again. And then the last one over here will be continue. And then we'll have the final screen, which is almost like a mirror of this screen, which is like the outro. And we can say something like, woohoo. Maybe we can bring this frame in here, and I'm holding command. Oops, I'm going to click it and just bring that in. And this bit of text here, we just need to clean it up and use it on our styles properly. And then the last thing we are going to do is just remove this, and then we can, we could probably just use this container. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make sure my containers are off the bottom properly. So I'm going to make sure that they're left and right, that they are bottom controlled, fixed position when scrolling. I'm going to copy one of these and throw this in here. And then I'm going to make sure that's large, tertiary. Make sure that fills the container. We don't need the arrow. And then we can have something fun. Let the shopping begin. And there you go. Look at the difference between the two. Like, they look like night and day. Even if we just go into these little checkboxes, we can, select it just to showcase. But, just a little bit of polish makes a big difference. And now we have an amazing, to be honest, intro, onboarding, and registration flow.